All right. Thank you all for being here. My name is Ben Levine, and I serve as Executive Director of Metro Lab. In just a moment, I'm going to turn it over to our hosts, but just wanted to quickly thank everyone for being here. If Metro Lab is new to you, we're a national network of more than 40 cities and 50 universities, having initially launched as part of the White House Smart Cities Initiative in 2015. And I'll be sharing more about our organization and our activities tomorrow morning. Our annual summit is an opportunity for all of those cities and universities to come together and connect for discussions about their work and convene with a really excellent set of partners from industry, nonprofit, and philanthropy that we have here today. I'd like to quickly acknowledge the folks that have helped bring this event together. First of all of you for being here, participating as panelists, workshop participants, and eager partners and collaborators on projects at the intersection of data technology and civic purpose. Our sponsors for this event, AARP, Grant Thornton, PSE&G, Crown Castle, IBM, UrbanX, and Verizon. Your support allows groups like these to come together, and we applaud your interest in advancing this important conversation and your commitment to the work of this collective group. And finally, of course, our hosts, the City of Newark and New Jersey Institute of Technology. We had a wonderful time last night getting to know the city and have activities planned throughout the next couple of days. I'd also like to acknowledge Governor O'Malley, Mayor Baraka, and Mayor Peduto from Pittsburgh and Mayor Burke from Chattanooga, who are here with us today. So with that, I'd like to call upon Angela Gerritsen, the Chief External Affairs Officer for NJIT, and thank you for all your hard work in helping put this event together.
Good morning, everyone. It is such a pleasure to have you here finally in Newark. This has been such an amazing experience to work with all of the folks from all over the Metro Lab network to bring you here today. I'm very, very excited to be able to introduce two amazing elected officials in this state. First, I'd like you to turn your attention to the screens for a welcome on behalf of our Senator Cory A. Booker.
Hi, this is Cory Booker. I just want to first and foremost thank my mayor, Ras Baraka, for doing an extraordinary job of doing just this, making bridges between the sectors of our city and getting us all working together in a more positive way. And a great partner of his is President Bloom, who is somebody from the time when I was mayor, was an extraordinary innovator in the urban, in the civic space. I'm thrilled that in the audience today are just great mayors, and I can say this as a senator. The hardest job in all of American government is being a big city mayor, and we have two great mayors there from Chattanooga and Pittsburgh. Not only are they showing great leadership, but their cities are making great progress. And lastly, I gotta give him a shout out because he was such an influential mentor mayor to me, and that's Martin O'Malley. In fact, when we were getting in the crutch of a terrible recession, a global recession, which for cities it often means depression-like conditions. When funding was being cut back to cities, it was Martin O'Malley's city. And what we learned from him in instituting CityStat, database management systems that helped us drive dramatic productivity within our city at a time that we were unfortunately losing tremendous workforce. And so I just want to encourage everybody. This is an important conference about bringing some of the best minds on the planet Earth from university and technological communities like NJIT and partnering them with mayors and other civic leaders to solve problems. It's creativity, it's ingenuity, it's innovation. And that's what's happening more at the city level than any place else in government. You all are trailblazers, you are our trend centers. I think that this conference is so critical because one good idea could help us take leaps when it comes to environmental health, leaps when it comes to public safety, leaps when it comes to expanding opportunity for children and families. Look, we all pledge an oath to this flag. We say those words, but delivering on those words, it's a lot harder. When we say this nation is going to be one of liberty and justice for all, that's a team effort. It takes us coming together, crossing the lines of sectors, joining together. And now in this time of profound innovation and technology, we've got to make sure we are marrying government with innovators and technologists to make those things happen. Thank you for doing just that. Thank you for inspiring me, and thank you for being trailblazers. I look forward to the future.
And next, a partner to this university, on behalf of my president of NJIT, Joel Bloom, who will be here tomorrow bringing greetings, we'd like to extend our welcome to our mayor of this great city, who has been such an incredible, not only spokesperson, but has really set the stage for what's great in great cities and what we're doing here. So I'd like to bring him up to say a few words. Thank you, Mayor Baraka.
Good morning, good morning. Good morning. It's not a funeral. So excited to be at NJIT, of course. Dr. Bloom is not here. I think he's an extra in the Joker movie across the street. He'll be here tomorrow. But we always excited to be at NJIT. All great things that are happening here. We're more excited to have Metro Lab here with us in the city of Newark. Even more excited to have Governor O'Malley here. We are struggling with our version of CityStat here in the city of Newark every day, trying to become more efficient and productive in our city. And I'm thrilled to have Mayor Burke, Mayor Perdue here with us as well. Met them in the back. We're glad to have them here in the city of Newark. Sorry that it's a little difficult. We have a movie going back and forth, so just bear with us. But this is incredibly important because this is our opportunity to, again, talk about how we use innovation, creativity, and technology to make government more open, more accessible to residents, easier to navigate, opportunities to create solutions to age-old problems, decades-old problems. In fact, even new problems that are created because of technology, we're going to need technology to solve those problems. So we, try as best as we can, particularly as the senator said, in an environment that is becoming increasingly difficult for us to find partnership to get these things solved, to get them done. We have people who don't even believe there are problems in the first place. So we have to first convince folks that there's actually a problem, and then we go out to solve them. And in Newark, we've been working tirelessly to create an environment of cooperation, of collaboration, a culture of problem solving where we get together in the room and do what we can across the private sector, the public sector, the academic community, as much as we can to drill down on some of these issues that have been affecting us for 50, 60, 70 years and do what we can to make our children's lives better than ours. So thanks for being here today. We look forward to an incredible 2 days or so here at NJIT, and thank you for being in the city of Newark.
Okay, we're going to start our first panel, and so I want to bring up a couple of terrific mayors to join us up here on the panel. Mayor Burke from Chattanooga, come on down, Mayor. And also the leading founding father of Metro Lab, Bill Peduto from Pittsburgh. Can we hear this? Yeah, there we go. Going to be some themes throughout this panel. If you should have any questions, there's a couple of microphones here. We're not going to have mic wranglers. You're going to have to wrangle yourself out of your seat and go up to the microphone. If I see somebody standing at the microphone, we'll go to you with the question, okay? Rather than cramming it into the last 30 seconds of the panel. But I'm going to tee up and ask each of these mayors to talk a little bit about, each of you is such a national leader now when it comes to those aspects of a smart city that make our cities more resilient, more connected, and more prosperous. And I'd like to start with our host mayor. And first of all, thank you. Mayor, if it weren't for your leadership and your generosity and your hospitality, we would not be here. And as we sit here, I know, because I read my notes, that we sit high atop 26 miles of dark fiber. So could you talk to us a bit about that asset that you have as a city, and in particular about Linked Newark, which I think some of us are going on a tour later today, and we're going to see aspects of this and the kiosks. But if you could talk about how you see that dark fiber as a smart city asset and how you're going about harnessing its potential in order to better connect all of your citizens. And there's a mic, I think, right to your, there you go.
Thank you. So again, welcome and thank you for being here. Right, so we have about 26 miles of dark fiber. Some of it is not dark anymore. Some of it is being used, particularly in the downtown area, some of the parks, trying to figure out how, we have it in our rec centers as well, free Wi-Fi in our rec centers. We're trying to figure out how to get it into the housing authority, into some of our buildings, make it accessible to some of our residents as well as some of the fastest speed internet in the country that you can get. We just had an outstanding presentation given to us at our meetings that we have every Friday, like CityStat, by some young IT guys that work for the city, the tremendous young folks who are trying to help us leverage our fiber in a way that we haven't imagined it before, whether we're talking about trying to figure out how many people are moving up and down the street in a particular area, how many people are using the park in real time right now, or what's the population like, or the movement, walking traffic like up and down downtown, and how do we increase that? Or if it gets too big, how do we begin to put police officers and other things in that area? All kinds of opportunities for us to be more efficient, more effective in how we manage our city, how we move our resources back and forth. I mean, Link Newark is a great example of it. The kiosk that we have, NJIT partnered with us to make those things happen. We're going to put them around the city.
Pause. University city partnership. Big round of applause.
It actually seems simple.
Who brought that about, that partnership between Newark and NJIT?
Well, I think, like I said earlier, we have created the kind of atmosphere in the city now where you can't go 2 blocks without everybody working together, whether it's around education, technology, public safety. In fact, I have a meeting in Safer Newark Council on Public Safety a little later today with Rutgers Newark and ourselves, who we have embedded in our staff some criminologists and statisticians from Rutgers University.
Awesome.
To help us gather data around crime.
On
right?
crime and also...
And trends, and help us create policy to address crime and trends in areas of the city.
And recidivism, and that 1% of parole and probationers that are 99% of the problem.
That's right. And as a matter of fact, we've witnessed
and everybody
a reduction.
Everybody knows who they are except the police.
Well, I think the police know who they are too. I think everybody assumes that we have the right strategy or the right capacity to deal with the problems that we have. And usually we don't, and it takes partnerships with universities to give us the kind of data that makes it very transparent and clear as to what is actually happening, so we create the right solution to deal with the problems that exist. People assume that just because you put police in the area or put more cops, more armored trucks, more people on the street, that you're going to drive crime down, and that necessarily is not the case. And we figured that out, and so we've witnessed a huge reduction in crime based on our relationship with Rutgers and some other things that we've been doing around the city.
When everybody knows, then everybody knows.
That's
and then
right.
You can start running plays, right?
Or when everybody don't know,
Yeah.
we let them know that they don't know. But you're right.
Everything becomes a hammer when it's the only tool.
But the last thing, the Link Newark is incredible because
Yeah, the kiosk. Tell us more about
it allows people to make phone calls any place in the world they want to. It allows you to charge your cell phone, gives you maps of the city, allows you to get around, interface with the city on these huge giant kiosks. It also gives the city and other people opportunity to allow the community to engage and let them know what's going on.
You can call anywhere in the world for free.
For free.
For free.
On these
Free's pretty
kiosks.
good.
Yeah. Free is not really free, but it's free.
That's awesome.
So it's great. It's a good opportunity, and I'm sure with the right people, we'll figure out how to do more things with that. And it's only in 3 places in the world now, right? It's in New York, in London, and a little small place called Newark, New Jersey.
Wow.
So we are trying to.
And when you say the it is these kiosks.
The kiosks. That's right.
Cameras on them as well?
And I'm sure before we leave, it'll be in Chattanooga.
And Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, and that's a great thing, though. We need it, you know, as many places as we can get it. So
Yeah, good mayors, I've noticed, good mayors are always on the prowl for good ideas that somebody has worked out research and development on already.
great mayor can appropriate something very fast
Yeah.
and make it work in their city.
Well, with that, I'm going to ask Mayor Peduto, who is really one of the thought leader behind Metro Lab. Mayor, you saw that some of the most potent solutions were things we learned from each other and that we share from one city to another. Whatever about the federal government, the truth is that each of us can help one another, and there's good ideas that can bubble up. In addition to everything you've done, and I saw you nodding your head on some of the things that the mayor was talking about, but I also know that a part of what means to be a smart city, more prosperous, more connected, is also more resilient. And you've been doing some really cool things in Pittsburgh with regard to the energy grid, making it more resilient. Could you talk a little bit about the district energy initiative that you're doing in Pittsburgh and how this is part of your smart city development evolution that you've been leading and driving?
Sure. A lot of the partnerships that we've had publicized have been between the city and Carnegie Mellon University. We also have a MOU with the University of Pittsburgh, and we've been working with them specifically on looking at a 21st century model of providing energy. So not just the source, because in some cases we're using natural gas, but building for capacity to change over years. In other areas, we're looking at 100% renewable. Some areas we're looking at geothermal. So all these different models, but how do you create a microgrid of grids? And so with any...
That was from
Was
the
that the
movie.
gong?
That was from the Joker. What movie is it, Mayor? The Joker.
Yeah.
That was,
So with any major development, we want to be able to produce energy on site. When we first proposed the idea back in 2014, our energy companies were completely against it, dead set against it. Why do you want to get involved in this? You know, your job is to protect the streets and to make sure there isn't garbage out there.
that's our grid, and if we want your help, we'll give it to you.
Exactly. Then they started to realize that already throughout Asia and Europe, this is commonplace. And if they want to partner with a city, they have the opportunity to expand their portfolio, get success, and then also be able to compete with companies that have already done it and to present it to other cities. So I think one of the compelling factors was when NRG came into town and said, we'll partner with you. All of a sudden, People's Gas, Duquesne Light were very interested, and the University of Pittsburgh, through the Swanson School of Engineering, became critical in helping us to plan it out. So presently we have 2 completed, 1 under construction, and 4 that have been proposed, 7 different microgrids throughout the city of Pittsburgh. Duquesne Light has created the first 100% solar microgrid, which powers their entire operations side. The new Penguins Arena has a new microgrid that will not only entire 28 acres that's being developed in downtown Pittsburgh, but part of the Middle Hill District, which is a low-income area, which will provide lower energy costs for the people that are living there, as well as Mercy Hospital and a brand new eye hospital in an entire area. And our foundation community is planning for the development of 187 acres of the last steel mill of the city to operate, which closed about a decade ago, and turning that into 100% renewable energy microgrid.
Wow.
And then our job is to connect all of those together.
And is the battery technology a piece of what's helping to drive this?
Well, it was, and there was a company that was based out of Western Pennsylvania that is now based in China that was instrumental in helping to get us to that part. But it's really more of a mix of a model. So as we look at our old steam plant in downtown, and a lot of cities have steam plants from the 19th century, we've been asking who can partner with us to create not just heat, but cogeneration with electricity from this steam. What type of upgrades do you need to use to a system that is almost well, it's vastly deficient in order to be able to do it. Or we look at an area that's just a brownfield and say, how can you create an entire system from scratch that can power this entire site with renewable energy?
And Mayor, what's the city's role in this? Is it permitting? Is it your desire that your city not experience rolling blackouts, or in a storm you're more resilient? What is the play for you as a leading mayor of a leading smart city? What's the city's role, and what was your motivation for making this a priority?
Well, the motivation is that Western Pennsylvania is fueled not primarily but only by coal and nuclear. And there's other options on the menu, and we should be looking at how the city itself can become the leader in being able to show Western Pennsylvania that we don't have to be dependent upon those.
And your goal of getting there is the microgrids then lead to
And my job is to bring the people to the table that have the ability to do it.
Really?
I don't have a Department of Energy within the city government, but I do have a university, I do have energy companies, and I do have infrastructure.
And so yours is the convening authority.
Yep.
And are you one of the cities that is declared, are you part of the, I mean, there's so many global initiatives on sustainable cities, resilient cities, 100% renewable by certain date sort of cities. Have you put Pittsburgh on those radar screens?
We're on every one of those lists, so.
Every one. Cool.
And we're 150-0 city, meaning our city will operate by 100% renewable energy by 2030. We will reduce our energy and water by 50% by 2030, and we'll have zero waste by 2030.
And you publish the plans to get you there? Are the
Yes.
plans evolving?
Yeah, we're in our third iteration of our climate plan.
Awesome. Cool. Mayor Burke, Chattanooga, by the way, Mr. Mayor, you know what they call their city step model? They call it Chattadata.
We like rhyming.
I like it, Chattadata. Mayor, tell us about Chattanooga, and in particular, the way that you have been able to lift up that tremendous asset in the information age, all of that connectivity that you have in your city. Tell us about how you're harnessing it, and tell us about how you've been able to lift that up in a way that makes Chattanooga look differently at itself when it comes to the infrastructure of this third industrial revolution, namely the internet and broadband.
Right. Well, it's great to be here. It's great to be in Newark and to see what's going on here. Mayor Peduto and I have known each other for a long time, and actually the stories of our cities reflect each other greatly. That's one of the reasons why I look a lot at what he's doing in Pittsburgh and what's happened there, because we have this same horrible post-industrial breakdown of our city where our core hollowed out and jobs moved overseas. We were left with this environmental legacy, but we didn't have the jobs that had once come with it. And so for us, a big piece of our recovery has been the change in our infrastructure, but this is not as much about roads as it is about fiber. So Chattanooga has the fastest, cheapest, most pervasive internet in the world. A 600 square mile system of fiber optics that runs to every single home and every single business in our area.
Man, that's a big boast. Repeat that again. Do that one, the one before.
This is the first time I've ever
world.
done this, so I'll try see if I can do it exactly the same again.
The part before the world.
Chattanooga has the fastest, cheapest, most pervasive internet in the world. A 600 square mile fiber optic network that goes, and this is important. This piece is important. Every single home, every single business in our entire area.
Wow.
So there is no matter where you are, no matter where you live, no matter what your job is, everybody has this up to a 10 gigabit per second connection. And usually when I talk to an audience and I say this, their first thought is, man, Netflix must be really good there. Yeah. You know, the exciting thing about talking to this audience is I've met some people this morning who might actually know what to do with a 10 gig network, and that's fantastic. So
tell us briefly the how and why of that.
So Chattanooga, unlike Pittsburgh and I would assume Newark, we do own our electric utility. We have a municipal electric utility, and we built out a smart grid.
Yeah. You guys own it. Not you. They own it.
So,
Okay.
so,
So you could do that.
So we this has been a big issue. So we decided to build out a smart grid for reasons like Mayor Peduto was talking about. And I know way too much about fiber these days, so I apologize. But one strand of fiber can carry all of the data in the world. Theoretically, a strand of fiber is limitless. You're only limited by the amount of your servers and the things that you can do. So once you basically build out fiber, you're future-proof. Because as long as you keep upgrading your servers and your switches and all that,
I like that
you
term.
can get faster. And so when we built out the grid, the question was, well, we know that we're going to do these amazing things with electricity. What else can you do with it? Because we can put all that you want. And the answer is, well, we can do data. We can do video. We can do voice. We can do all these things because the fiber that now goes to every single home, because they're all on the electrical grid, they now can have this connection. And so for us, the last several years have been an attempt to take advantage of this incredible infrastructure that we have and to say, now that we have it, what do we do with it?
And so I imagine this is a huge part of when you're selling your city and marketing your city to the world, this is pretty front and center on your menu of what we have to offer in Chattanooga.
This has been a huge push for us, so we started an innovation district. We made sure that we had a dense location. We were the first mid-sized city to do that. We did that several years ago. We brought together the university as a critical partner in this because we wanted to get our university partners off of their campus and into the urban test bed. Mina Sartipi, who's with me today, does incredible research in our city as part of this. But our innovation district has become a focal point. And here's the key, Mayor, and I know that, Governor, I know that you understand this as do the rest of the people here. For us in 2018, it's all about wages. It's not just about getting a job. People need a job that can pay the bills. And so over the last several years, Chattanooga has had one of the highest wage growths in the country. Last year we had the sixth highest in the country. Over the last 5 years, we've had one of the highest for a mid-sized city. And so for us, what we want to do is find those high-wage jobs because people then put more money back into the system. It goes locally. And for us, we've really seen that good cycle continue.
And the state legislature hasn't tried to preempt you from allowing wages to go up in your city?
Yeah, well, the state legislature has tried to preempt us from everything, and including the things that allow us to do that. So to give you an idea of where that has happened, I got into a huge argument with our state. I know this surprises you about our web and our data. First of all, they have not liked in the past that we run our own system. And then we tried to expand to nearby locations who are begging to get our asset. The state has stopped us. We went to the FCC. The FCC said we could do it. The state sued us to stop us from doing it and eventually won in federal court.
And the doing it was what?
Expanding our fiber optic network to the next counties and towns.
Wow, you know, it's a lot like 100 years ago, Mayor, when we had water authorities and everybody wanted to be connected up to our water and sewers as a city. Mayor Baraka, I saw you nodding your head when you're hearing Mayor Burke talk about the value of that fiber optic, and also looking at your own energy company when it comes to connecting your people. What's the biggest challenge you face as a mayor at this point in time in bridging that gap between the dark fiber that's underneath and the need to access it by people that live above?
Resources, just the the amount of money that it's going to cost to connect fiber to actual residents' homes. I mean, it's great to be able to use the utility to do that. These guys are always in our ground. Every other day they tearing up the cement and tearing up the street. It's an opportunity to connect fiber. And a lot of those, especially when they're changing out the gas lines, you have that connectivity in the old lines, and we could put fiber in that, connect it in that way. So the mayor's absolutely correct. I mean, that infrastructure allows you to connect to every home, every business, every opportunity in the city because they're already connected. Yeah. And if there's a way we could get PSE&G to do that, then it would be awesome for us. Other than that, you have to solicit the private sector to try to get the dollars that's necessary to be able to build it out in that capacity.
I thought it was fascinating that the imperative, Mayor, really came not from wanting people to have better access to Netflix movies or even for people to have a better ability to trade and send data, but it was really the energy imperative, huh? That's what connected the homes, because the homes were using energy. You own the energy company, and I assume it was a predecessor mayor that saw this nexus?
That's right. It was really the executives at the utility started this roughly 10 years ago.
Wow,
and
10 years is not a long time ago.
It's not a long time ago. And they started it really in the mid-2000s and built it out in 2009. But just, again, I don't know what the experience is that Bill is having. He may not have access to this data, but just to give you an idea, in 2008, before we built out the smart grid, we would get about 2,000 points of data. 2 million points of data a year from our grid. Now we get about 16 million a day. So for what you can do resiliency when you're getting 16 million data points a day, I think this is a place where we have a lot of room to grow that we just don't even know what's in there that we can uncover that might help us in the long run, that could spur innovation and do all kinds of interesting things with companies. Right now, it helps us to get the grid back up quicker. We are, like, if something happens, we know exactly where it is, how to fix it. We get people online. It saves hundreds of millions of dollars over the course of these last 10 years. But the big issue, I think the next step is, how do we continue to partner with universities and researchers to mine that data and figure out what it tells us and how that can spur the next innovations in energy.
Are you finding, do you access it in Chatadata?
We do not we know what the data is, but there is still a fair amount of privacy issues between us and the electric utility that doesn't allow us to. We have a lot of conversations about exactly what we can access and what we can't.
I see. Mayor Peduto, how about in your city, you had to get the energy company to come to the table. You don't regulate the energy company. What was the argument that you used with them? And did the information highway aspect of this ever play into it?
Absolutely. It's just to step back for a little bit before answering that question. What we're talking about is a system of systems, right? We're talking about how does an electric grid system interface with a fiber system, interface with a water system, interface with a gas system, and then how does that go above ground to utilizing sensors and using the backhaul of that technology to allow the sensors to go into a next generation, so that everything from traffic signals to connected automobiles to sensors that can detect where there's lakes of methane, where gas lines may be breaking, or rivers of carbon where buses are spewing diesel. All of that can be then tracked, identified, and then using predictive analytics let us know before a problem occurs where it's going to be. So, 2002, I get sworn into office as a city councilman. Where do I go? Baltimore. What do I want to see? CityStat. What's CityStat's mission? To use data to make informed decisions. Where are we today? Where CityStat can actually be utilized in a predictive way to be able to know a problem before it is. Before seeing all those different pickups that were missed within that one division of refuse collection. Knowing that that will happen because of looking at employment numbers or where people are taking weeks of vacation off, and understanding we're going to have a shortage there in July if we don't move a couple of folks over. Being able, like we did with Carnegie Mellon, that we gave them all the data on every single building, commercial building in the city. Everything we had, from the building permits to when the last work was done to violations. And we said to them simply this: tell us where the next fire is going to be. And of that list of 20-some thousand, they identified 58 locations within the city of Pittsburgh, and they said a fire is going to occur at these 58 places. They gave us over 300 other locations, that they said would be in jeopardy. 50 of the 58 had a fire alarm within 1 year. The other 300, we have firefighters going to check to make sure the sprinkler systems are working, make sure the dampers are working. So our goal is very simple. No one dies because of a fire. That is where these systems interface, and where there has to be, and this is the challenge I'm going to throw out to everyone here, there is no way cities can do it by themselves. We can't fix our water systems ourselves. We have problems with our sewer problems in our cities. I'll try to fix that and get the gas companies and everyone else. We can convene people together, but it's going to require a partnership. And I know that public-private partnerships in some circles are looked at as evil. It's the corporate takeover of public assets. But that's when Wall Street decides what the should look like. When they're looking at the rate of investment and the rate of return of outright buying and then taking all the money for 50 years, 75 years, and they get like a 12% return. We have to create a people's plan for those types of partnership that allow us to put the needed investment into our falling infrastructure and failing infrastructure, while at the same time building these networks of networks out. And we have to come up with a way where we can keep our assets public, while at the same time look at operation and management plans that align these different entities. And that's where MetroLab plays its part. Because if we can leverage universities of working across this country to come up with a new model of public-private partnership that will allow us to keep our assets public, allow us to be able to upgrade what's failing, and to create the system of systems, then we'll create a new model for the 21st century that will be here for the 22nd.
Right.
Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, well said. And it requires collaborative leadership. Like, hey, big round of applause. Yeah, I couldn't think of, come on up to the microphone, man. No, you have to go up to the microphone because we're trying to encourage follow-on behavior.
It's not
Very
a profound
good.
question. It's
Sure.
just, can you say more about the people's plan? I was talking with the pre-reception dinner about how, or the.
And what is your name?
yesterday. I'm sorry, Gavin Luter from University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Who won the football game the other night?
Yeah, it was kind of rough. We're pulling for the Packers tonight to bring us up. So anyway, we were just talking to the gentleman from San Francisco last night about how all these kind of larger tech firms are collecting data about individual people, and then when the government gets involved, then it's Big Brother and all this kind of stuff. So can you say more about the people's plan for keeping, for creating these systems, whatever? I mean, it's not a profound question. I'm just wondering if you could say more about that.
So, Gavin, are you most interested in how you safeguard people's privacy?
Yeah, I think that's what it is, and also bringing more people into the fold. When you're talking about, when I heard about fires, the first thing I thought about, it's not really sexy to tell people, hey, there were no fires. You should be really thanking us. They're going to be like, oh, well, you should be doing that. So how do you communicate this work to people, but also I think it intersects with something I have in my mind about how do you protect people's data to make sure that they don't see this as a big brother. I mean, when you talked about collecting people's information about who's in the parks, that makes maybe average citizens go, really? Is the city of Newark really keeping track of where I am at all times? So I'm just wondering, I mean, to me, I think the people plan gets at both how do you talk about it and how do you protect people's data.
Yeah, a few key points: trust, integrity, and then a people's plan. Where's the public accountability? Anybody want to take a whack at that, Mayor?
I'm just going to say that I don't think there's anything that I've read that has been able to properly identify it. I think that we have broken down to that Washington model where you're able to identify the problem, but we're not saying, okay, that's a problem. That doesn't mean that you don't solve it, and you figure out ways to get around it. And it's something that's needed right now because aging infrastructure won't fix itself. We can't tax the people that use it to the point of what the cost of the repairs will be. And there has to be some sort of a way to be able to leverage equity into the system while putting it all together to get more than what one system independently can get.
Mayor?
Well, I don't think that there's any magic formula for this because in 2018, trust is at a low for all kinds of institutions, and we see that every day. The one thing I will tell you is that we seem, I think, to have a little bit easier time at the local level gaining people's trust than they do at, say, the federal level. And that is because, maybe they can yell at us in the grocery store if we don't, we abuse the trust. They see us every day, whatever it is, but...
And you deliver visible things.
And we deliver, they know who we are, they know what we do. It makes it a little bit easier on the local level. Not easy, but I do think that municipal governments have a greater trust with their constituents than any other form
It might
of...
even be why Mayor Peduto had that convening authority to begin with, because of the trust that he enjoys from being mayor and effective mayor of the city. Means that those other partners are afraid not to come to the table.
I trust him. I've known him for a long time. I trust him. So I think
Even with the beard.
Even with the beard, it's a new and good look. But I would just say that the big thing is you can't do something that's gonna cost people the trust, and once you do, it's hard to get it back.
Mayor?
So earlier I said that technology is going to be used to solve problems, and we're going to have to use technology to solve the problems that the technology created in the first place. And that's important. So not only are we going to be able to determine, and not by individual person, but how many people are moving around the city, but there's a big issue about the cameras that we put around that different folks in the community asked for, right? Different cameras that are accessible by residents. What's interesting to me is that people are not as concerned with the private sector having all their information as they are with the public sector having all the information, because somebody's got your information now, right? And they're using it. Like every time you get on the phone, they know every trend and pattern. That's why, they start sending you all of these commercials on your cell phone and everything else. They have these patterns, and you saw Facebook, they sell your information away. I mean, all of this stuff this is the new epoch we're in because of the age of technology. And that's something that we do have to be worried about. But ultimately, as I said to 1,000 reporters that interviewed me about the cameras, we can't allow that to inhibit us from solving problems that we have that are very real in our city. We're going to have to move forward to solve these problems, or our hands will be tied by this issue of distrust and fear. And maybe we need some smart folks to collectively get together and figure out how we put some firewalls or anything in place to stop people from using it for other means other than what it was intended to be used for in the first place.
And Mayor, when you talk about cameras, which is a system of systems, right? Are you talking about crime cameras or traffic cameras or both?
All of it. And now the cameras that the cameras that we have access to now can do a multitude of different things, right? So this is not just a camera like before. They could just get your picture. I mean, these cameras, we can get real-time data with this information. We can get facial recognition with this data. We can get license plate readers with this data, right?
Man, that license plate reader stuff. In Prince George's County, working with the county executive there and 23 local governments, we drove auto thefts down by 75%. And I know it was all about networking the ability of the traffic reader, the handheld ones, the car-held ones, with the statewide ones and the countywide ones. It's powerful technology.
And it allows the police can actually look at the camera from their telephone while they're driving, so they can see in real time what's happening before they even get there.
So that cuts out even the need for the dispatch and the relay and the 911 and all of that.
And getting there and not knowing exactly what's going on.
And you couldn't do that without fiber.
You couldn't do it without the access to the fiber, right?
Yeah. Wow. Any other questions? Yeah, come on up to the microphone. Don't be shy. Look at all of these
Hi there.
bright-eyed people. Hi, what's your name?
Megan Cook from the Center for Technology and Government at the University at Albany. And so I really...
Albany, like in upstate New York?
Yes.
Is it still snowing there?
Yes, it's already snowing there. So I have a question about the system of systems, because it's a very thoughtful approach and it makes sure that you have interoperability in the long term. What we do is we work with many of the smaller cities, and when we talk about systems of systems and we get into all the interconnectedness, they become overwhelmed. okay? So can you give advice to the smaller cities on where to start? Because when you start thinking about how it's all going to interconnect, and you don't have the resources really to even do one part of that, things get a little bit unwieldy. So any advice?
Oh,
Thank you.
Good question. Advice for smaller cities and like a newly elected mayor, if she's trying to figure out how do I make sense of this and see where to start? Anybody want to take a whack at that?
I'd say, would you like to save money? Budget has an annual allocation for paving streets. If you coordinate the efforts with the gas company, with the electric company, and with your public works department, you can coordinate when the street is going to be torn up. You can know when it's right to pave. How many times has a street in your town been paved only 2 years later to be torn up for a utility upgrade? And you can be able to use that as your coordination beginning. Once you get those people into the same room, then you can start talking about other cost efficiencies of working together, and then start looking at the technology component of it as well.
This is also, I think, going to be our kind of wrap-up question. Mayor, thoughts?
Yeah, so when I was actually a state senator before I was mayor, and I represented a rural county just to our west at the same time, and saw some of the problems that you're talking about. I think Mayor Peduto has some good advice. You know, they really need to find wins. That's something a lot of the smaller cities struggle with. And so what is that quick win that gets the trust for you and for them? I do think that many of our smaller cities struggle with their utilities being in control of a lot of public assets, that they can't seem to get a hold of it, and finding ways, particularly to explain how that can help them take control for the public of not necessarily control the utility, but control some of the decisions and make sure that whether it's one dig or something else, they can be driving the right policies for their residents. That's a huge victory for some of these small cities.
Mr. Mayor.
So the funny thing is, Mayor Peduto, we're actually doing exactly what you said right now in terms of with PSE&G using a utility company to help us figure out when they're going in the streets, using that data, actually getting them to help us pave some of our streets, actually paved a lot of our streets as a matter of fact, and are still doing that, you know, because they go into the ground, they need permits. The great thing you have is they all need a permit. It's all you
right.
own the street. You know, all of those things, they still have to go through the city to get it done, which forces a partnership. You just have to sit down with them and try to figure out how to make those things work. And I agree, you need a small victory. Mother is the necessity. I mean, you know, the necessity of invention. So at the end of the day, whatever it is that you need to deal with in the city, you bring the people together around that issue, because everybody has a specific issue, whether you're talking about crime or homelessness or energy efficiency. Bring people in the room, you find out that we all agree on more than we disagree with, and we try to figure out how to get those things done as efficiently and effectively as we can, and save each other money at the same time.
And small things done well make the bigger things possible, especially in an era where trust is so low. We have to be able to show people, right? I mean, it's a matter of, let me take a whack at that question. I think one of the things that all of us got very good at over many, many decades of practice was telling our citizens how much everything was going to cost next year. Man, we could tell you down to the line item in a big, thick budget book. If I were giving advice to a new mayor in any size city, including a smaller or mid-sized city, some of the best data you have, and it is scrubbed and it is audited, and you have GASB and you have to report it up now, and some states even have their own reporting requirements, is make sure you can understand and visibly see that system of systems that is your own budget, where you're spending, how you're spending. The second thing is the map, the common platform, that city, and make sure that you call all of your departments and agencies to land their data, or at least open the silo of information in such a way that it can be projected on one map. And to the mayor's point, when you control the permitting for other people, and you tell them that I really can't process a permit in a very timely, efficient, and coordinated way unless you're landing your data on the map, you'd be surprised with these gentlemen and their convening authority and the trust that they have. Everybody starts coming, like, you know, Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer whitewashing the fence. Everybody starts coming to that common platform, especially when people realize that that is the forum in which I get my permits, I see where the dig is, I understand how to connect to the system of systems. So really, the financial data and getting things to land on one base map. If people know that the mayor is always looking at that map, and that's the common forum, that becomes the latest emerging truth. And they'd be surprised how people find their own way to connect up the system of systems once the mayor says, this is the one map and this is our data. So we have to wrap up. You told me 5 minutes. I was on time, Ben. I was watching. My iPad, my common platform said 10:32. Okay, look, I want to, we have a little bit of business to handle. I want to acknowledge, and we're going to give an award here to a man who has really been at the forefront of the Metro Lab effort, and that is Mayor Peduto from Pittsburgh. In Pittsburgh, did you know that at Carnegie Mellon, they actually have the mayor sit on the Board of Regents for their university? I don't know about you guys, but I mean, if I got invited once to sit on Johns Hopkins or even address Johns Hopkins board, that was like a big deal. It was an engraved invitation that they would lower themselves to ask their own mayor to come. Bloomberg came and went as he pleased, of course, but I had to get an invitation. But Mayor Peduto was really the lead driver behind this Metro Lab network, this notion that universities and cities directed by good mayors who are looking over the horizon can really be powerful and effective partners. So that was way back in 2015, a couple visits to the White House, getting on the horn, calling other mayors, getting them on the phone, telling them that this is a new network and they want to be a part of it and we're going to be doing good things together. Anyway, he was such a, Mayor, you've been such a tremendous leader in this whole effort, in your ability to articulate this in ways that citizens can understand, as so many of you heard tonight, or this afternoon. I'm on Colorado time, as so many of you heard this morning. Anyway, we have something for you, Mayor. Hold on one second. They told me it's in the, here it is. So this is the White House press release, and it's a fact sheet about the administration. That would have been the Obama administration announcing new Smart Cities initiative to help communities tackle local challenges and improve city services. So, Mayor, we have framed this White House press announcement for you. It is signed by various admirers of yours, including Ben and Rick and myself, and we thank you for everything that you've done. This is dated September 14th, 2015, which was also an anniversary of the Battle of Baltimore and the Star-Spangled Banner. So we present it to you. You should say a couple words. Yeah, go say a couple words.
So first off, there's one group I have to thank, and that's Carnegie Mellon University. This partnership went back 12 years when I was a city councilman, and I had the opportunity to represent Carnegie Mellon and University of Pittsburgh, UPMC, West Penn Hospital when Pittsburgh was going through a pretty rough time. And there was one shining light that was happening, and that was our eds and meds, and they transformed our economy. And that partnership, I'm so proud to continue today as we look at the next phase of how we can work together. And then there's one individual I have to thank, and that's Deborah Lamb, who I recruited to come back home to Pittsburgh to create a new Department of Innovation and Performance. And instead of going through the trouble of trying to find a way to work around a broken old system to partner with Carnegie Mellon, she cut the Gordian knot. Was it Gordian knot? can't remember. She cut some knot and created this MOU between a city and a university where a city became an urban lab and a university became an R&D department, and we didn't have to go through all those RFPs and everything else in order to get good ideas to people. So on behalf of the people of Pittsburgh, thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Carnegie Mellon, for helping to make our city a better place.
Mayor, thank you. Let's give it up for everybody, all the mayors on our panel. Terrific. Mayor Baraka, Mayor Burke, Mayor Peduto,